Hi, I'm Chanel, and welcome to the next episode of Crap, Now What? Now, this is going to be a very exciting episode because I'm going to be talking about that crap, now what moment when retirement funds take a dip in the market. I am an untaxable wealth strategist, or sometimes for people, an untaxable retirement strategist. And the reason that this is a very important topic for anyone who has found their way to this podcast, whether you're one of my thousands of current clients or if this is your first time, what I want you to see is that the tie between that crap now what moment when something happens financially and it impacts our life, and how there are strategies to minimize or prevent that. And that is the spirit of why I do this podcast, is to break down one of these ideas so that people that find their way here can learn about things that they might not have already learned about in the financial services industry. The spirit of this podcast is actually to help share concepts so that you are one of the informed rather than one of the uninformed. So if you're new at checking this out, stick with me because I'm going to weave some financial strategy conversations and ideas with the spirit of caring about people completely, and your feelings, emotions, and everything that is tied to the finances. Whether you are someone of wealth, whether you are someone that is emerging wealth and making plans, or if you are someone who is actually kind of scared that you're going to have enough money to be able to retire and enjoy the life that you have dreamt of, I've got something for you. So today's episode is going to be centered around something called the safeguard method. So the safeguard method, what I'm going to show you right here from a very realistic standpoint is that this is, as you can see, the S&P 500 returns from the period of 2000 to 2022. So this is a little bit behind time-wise, but it's very important because people's retirement funds. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Retirement funds are typically tucked into one of the buckets of either a 401k, a 403b, a 457, or a TSP. So that would be traditional, or if you happen to work in public service or in education, that's a 403b, or in the military, a 457. Or if you independently started your own IRA. So any of those groups are collectively typically tax deferred accounts. And here's the spirit of why we're having this conversation today. First of all, we've not paid taxes on any amount that we've amassed in any of those accounts. And that's pretty traditional, because we were told, save money now, you'll do better and be fine in the future. Let's put that aside for a little bit and look at it from a graph here. If you look at this and start to picture yourself ready to retire, if you happen to choose to retire in any of one of those years, and the S&P 500 takes a big dip, which is a large part of how the earnings are calculated in any of those accounts, because it's out in the market. So if the stock market has a really bad year, then your account has a really bad year. It takes a loss. Losses cannot always be recovered. So think back. Stretch your imagination. If it's not coming to you quick, think back to, did you have maybe a grandparent, a parent, maybe yourself have an account in 2008 and it took a 30% or almost 40% dip? Do you know someone who is about to retire at that time? I remember this very distinctly, that many people who were about to retire at that time, at 2008, that's the one that shows the 38% dip, the big long red drop. If you were to retire at that time, many people found themselves having to continue to work because all of a sudden all their hopes and dreams, or a large percentage of their hopes and dreams, had taken a dip, or taking a part-time job. Again, another not how we pictured retirement moment. Back to my spirit of talking about people and their hopes and dreams. If you started to take retirement funds at that time in 2008, or if you look at the other second biggest dip, or there's several of them, 2002, 2008, 2020, any of those red dips are actually, and I'm using the word dip for a reason, you're double dipping into your account. So not only taking a huge loss, but also taking out money. So what we're going to talk about today is a wealth strategy that is called the safeguard method. And I'm going to walk through this and show you the impact of thinking a little bit differently and making a different set of plans. So now we've established that it's not the best to retire on a red year. I'm going to show you with some numbers the impact of the safeguard method. If you have a beginning balance of $1 million in retirement accounts, again, any of those, 401k, 403b, 457, IRA, independently. And I know there's a lot of people in middle America that do not have even that $1 million. And so I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just using a round figure here. If there's a beginning balance of $1 million in a retirement account, which for most people, if they manage to get themselves to $1 million, they're feeling like, oh, I'm in good shape. And absolutely, I agree. That's a lot of money. Let's think a little bit about what average household would need to be able to retire comfortably, and use an annual withdrawal figure of $75,000. Now, some people would say, if they were able to have the conversation with me at this moment, would say that's not enough. I need more in order to live comfortably or keep myself in the same lifestyle that I'm accustomed to. However, let's use the 75,000, and we're looking at a retirement savings account that is in this space here and has had the ups and downs over time. Here's what happens. $75,000 a year seems like a nice amount of money. However, mathematically, if the funds are following the stock market and they remain in that type of we run out of money in 10 years, but the thing is that anyway, in 10 years, we're out of money. You retire at 65, 67, maybe even 70. Life expectancy is far longer than 10 years. That's the other reality of proper planning at this time in life, and how a wealth strategist like myself can help to have that money last longer. All right, let's go into this a little bit more. If a person was to adjust where their IRA funds are at, 401k, 403b, it still applies no matter where your retirement accounts are, and try to neutralize the effect of the safeguard method by putting their money in a place where there's never any more of those red bars, having their money shifted over strategically into a place where there's only upward growth. This is what it would look like. At least we're now not having the losses, but we're still have only about that 10 window. Now, if you really were to apply the strategies that I specialize in and my team specializes in, where we are actually really shifting. So that other slide technically was showing before the shift. Here's what happens with the shift. The shift actually extends the money another 10 years. Granted, 20 years in, there's only about $37,000 in the account, so to speak, but there's now another 10 years of living at that same $75,000 that could prevent someone from having to have a part-time job, especially in that last 10 years when we're especially getting older, or extend at least the time to be able to enjoy the fruits of everything that we did put away. Let's look at the comparison between before safeguard and after safeguard. The red is following the S&P, just doing what we're always doing, what we were told to do, just keep our funds in the 401k, IRA, any of those types of accounts, and follow the market. The green is embodying and moving the funds into a safeguard method. And I'm going to show you a couple of different things, because one thing we do know about the markets is that the last 10 years or the last 20 years is not always a prediction of the future. I will say, though, that any financial person or someone in financial services will tell you that 3 out of 10 years are typically a down year or very low earnings year. So that's part of the reason why I want to be practical and show you several different examples of what volatility can look like versus indexing. So the red is S&P, the green is the safeguard method. Which would you rather be? In this example, of course, green. Realistically, looking at the market going up and down, which would you rather be? So in this example of the volatility simulator, again, most people would agree that you would rather have the green line than the red line. Let's do this again. Another simulation, possible results over 20 years. Same type of thing. Another one. So this is a realistic look at possible scenarios of keeping your funds in the market versus looking at a safeguard or an indexing method that helps to reduce that volatility and add potentially another 10 or more years onto how much longer your funds will last. So this is a little bit shorter episode that is kept very much into the slice of there are ways to move your money strategically, set your stage. You can start it early on and never have to deal with this market volatility. You can go midstream, even if you go to your employer or a financial advisor, or maybe even your CPA, and you say, hey, I've heard about this. I've done some research on it. I've seen a podcast on it. Tell me more. I'm going to tell you right now, your employer or whoever is holding your funds, they're not going to be familiar with this, and they're not going to want your money out of your accounts because they make typically 1 or 1.5%, not your employer, but the people who manage your account do. Your employer, while they might have your best interest at heart over in human resources, are not going to know anything about this type of strategy typically. And they're going to tell you, well, if you've not hit 59.5, you're going to have penalties. True. That doesn't mean, though, that you can't start setting the stage for as you hit retirement, that you're in a position to be able to minimize your risk, minimize this volatility, minimize the chance that you take a huge dip right at the time when you're about to retire. So I'm not saying that people don't have their best interests at heart, but where someone like myself steps in, it's to help to say, there are things you can do. There are ways to look at it. And just because the HR person, probably going to have people, maybe I need haters, just to be honest, because that would add viewers. But your HR person's going to care about you. Your financial advisor, they do care. Their job is to actually help your money to grow, but they're not going to want it necessarily to go away. And others, like your CPA, even CPAs, even my CPA doesn't sometimes understand what I do. Just to be honest, great guy, wonderful strategist when it comes to taxes, but even he doesn't completely understand what I do. There are ways. The difference is you could be one of the people that's informed versus uninformed, and you can take charge and live your one life to the fullest financially. If you live it to the fullest financially, then you will also have less stress, more enjoyment, be able to be around family, travel, whatever your dream is. That's the spirit of this Crap Now What podcast. I don't want you to have the pain of sadness and disappointment when you get to retirement. If you like these ideas, please tune in again. If you'd like to hear more, there are ways to ask questions. There are ways to reach out. You can go to my website, Go Blazing Star. You can search for Blazing Star on any of the socials. Watch more, see more, be engaged. I invite that. I come to you with the invitation of helping you and that spirit of changing your life and helping you to change your own life. I have an amazing team that I want to thank. I have Ren's Marketing, which is Michaela and Hans. Also, Caleb at Sal Media. They work with me all the time to help me to bring this to you and these concepts. If you like what I've been sharing with you, I also do in-person workshops. I break down different segments. I'll be in Wichita on the 24th and 25th at the Advanced Learning Library. Gorgeous building near downtown, plenty of parking. And we'll be breaking down Social Security and retirement and talking a little bit about that impact on taxes and the strategies of Social Security. We'll be in Bentonville in July, mid-July. The venue is still being secured, but that topic will be women and wealth. So stick with me. I'm going to keep bringing you these types of topics. I'm going to bring them in person. I'm going to offer and have in development on demand workshops. So I will be in your neighborhood one way or the other. And meanwhile, each week there will be another podcast that's posting. I look forward to seeing you, and I do please invite you to send your questions in. I would love to have that engagement and be able to share things that you want to learn more about. Thank you.